Hi guys, it was sort of expected that the Israeli administration would react negatively to the UK government's recognition of a Palestinian state. Now, we don't have all the details, but it seems to be based on the 1967 borders, the capital being Jerusalem, and no role for Hamas. Now, we don't know how that's going to be implemented, but we'll have to wait and see. However, how the Israeli government responded was pretty weird. Have a listen to this.
Rob, this has been an issue for decades. So why has the Prime Minister recognised the Palestinian state now?
Yeah, I think there's a mix of reasons. Back in July, when Keir Starmer first signalled that this was a route he was going to go down, you sense that we are entering a period where Western states, Western allies of Israel, apart from the US obviously, were becoming more critical about the actions of Israel in Gaza, and frankly, recognition of a Palestinian state was one of the diplomatic levers, one of the few diplomatic levers they had to express their unhappiness in action rather than words. The hope was, and still is, that it would galvanise other countries to pile pressure on Israel to stop the fighting, but there's some evidence already that it may be having the opposite effect. Tonight, one Israeli official has told Sky News that in response to the announcements of recognition today, Israel could consider annexing the West Bank either in part or in whole.
Okay, but Netanyahu has already said in the past that he would consider annexing the West Bank. So this is not really a threat. But also, Starmer's approach to this was pretty grubby. He was basically saying, look, if Israel don't pull back, we're going to punish them by recognizing a Palestinian state. Not that the Palestinians deserve their own state, but we're going to use this as some sort of bargaining chip.
And tonight, in addition to that, the Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Saar, hasn't been on the phone to anyone here in number 10, but rather he's been phoning Sir Keir Starmer's political opponents in the Tory leader, Kemi, Badenoch, and the Reform leader, Nigel Farage, to signal his unhappiness about what has happened.
Okay, just think about that for a moment. We keep hearing how the UK and Israel are allies. Okay? They work hand in hand. They may have disagreements, but they are allies. And you have the foreign minister from the Israeli administration not calling number 10, not calling his counterpart in the UK to express his anger, not doing this through the normal diplomatic channels. No, he's going to Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. He's going to the opposition parties to do what? What does he hope to achieve by doing that? Obviously to undermine the UK government. I would see this as a threat. I would see this as not an ally, but I don't know, could you describe this as an enemy? Because they're not using the normal diplomatic channels. They're going to the opposition parties to try and undermine the government. This is extremely underhanded. You know, normally, if you have a disagreement with the United States, for example, the UK has a disagreement with the United States, they don't go to the Democratic Party and try and undermine Donald Trump. They go through the normal diplomatic channels. They use their ambassador, they use their diplomatic service, they use the foreign secretary. They communicate directly to the administration and say, look, we disagree with this, or we would like something else done. In what scenario do you ever see a foreign power trying to undermine a government by speaking to the opposition parties, as opposed to speaking to... If this was North Korea, if this was Russia, you could sort of understand it, but Russia and North Korea are not allies of the United Kingdom. Israel is supposed to be an ally, and its government is not some, backbencher in Parliament. We're talking about a government minister going to Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage to do what? To pressure the government. But they don't have power in Parliament. So what is his goal here? It's to play political games, to try and undermine the government, to try and whip up anger in the public sphere against the government over this. A normal government would negotiate, would try and speak to the British government and say, look, we don't agree with what you're doing. Please, let's meet and thrash this out. But the Israelis are not doing that. So I think this should be a wake-up call in number 10, that the Israelis are not our allies. I don't know if you should go as far as to say they're enemies, but they're not allies of the United Kingdom, because an ally does not go behind your back to the opposition parties who have no influence in Parliament, I should say, but to undermine the government. There should be some sort of sanctions imposed here, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.